Hello, everybody. Adam Cleary from FourFourTwo here, and slightly weird intro this one, but just bear with me. Right, so do you remember Anne Hathaway saying that she loves Leandro Trossard? Yes, of course you do. Right, now I think ever since that happened, his performances have visibly gone up a level, and that would make him the most relatable footballer who has maybe ever lived. 3 goals in the last 4 games is one of the main reasons Arsenal are pushing City right to the wire in this title race. And that just makes sense. Like, do you have any idea how much more effort I would be putting into these videos if I thought there was even the slightest chance Anne Hathaway might be watching them? Because it's like, it's a lot, okay? Anyway, right, yes, Arsenal fans, it is now officially scary hours. This is the team you put out against Manchester United at the Theatre of Streams. Hey, you having that? Anyway, 1-0, a win in one of the weirdest games I've seen all season. But the main difference maker, the man who got you the goal, was this man, Leandro Trossard. And in a match where, like I say, pretty weird, it just did not seem to click for Arsenal. They had the ball and then they kind of sat off, and it felt like Man United had a good deal of control, but at the same time, you sense that if they ever were in any danger, they would have gone up levels and levels and levels and levels. Just ignore all that. 1 goal arrived. That's the goal that mattered, and Trossard got it, and it just begs the question, how does he keep doing this? Because up until the last few games, he hasn't really felt like a guaranteed starter for Arteta, and yet just this season, he got the vital equaliser right at the end of the Community Shield before Arsenal went on to win it. When it looked like they were dropping points at Goodison Park early in the season, he came on and scored the kind of goal only he was likely to score. He got an absolutely vital equaliser against Chelsea, got not the winning goal, but certainly the one that killed the game against Liverpool, which sent Arsenal top of the league. He made that breakthrough against Porto when Arsenal had not been able to break them down. He got the equaliser against Bayern Munich, and here again, in this game where it just looked like it wasn't really Arsenal at their best, he's the man that pops up, finds just a yard and a half of space, and finishes. And those are just the goals that feel really big when you're trying to remember them. There's been loads of others as well. There was the Bournemouth one, Wolves very recently too. Like, the guy has as many, I'm going to get this right, as many non-penalty goals this season as potential Player of the Year winner Cole Palmer. In fact, if you do take penalties out of the equation, he becomes Arsenal's top scorer this season, ahead of both Saka and Havertz, and only 1 behind Mo Salah, despite starting like 10 less games than he has. Now, if you watch Arsenal all the time, that's probably not a massive shock. Like, you will know how good he is. But I would imagine, like, the casual Premier League fan who doesn't see him that often is maybe a little bit shocked by some of those numbers. Because when you watch a game, his overall contribution doesn't feel that significant. Like, this is his heat map from the Man United game. And if you've seen me do many heat maps this season, you'll know this is barely involved at all. I think he came off after like 65, 70 minutes, but regardless, you'd still expect a team of Arsenal's like attacking dominance to have one of their main forward players showing up like all over the place. There should be huge big red and orange patches here as he's getting on the ball and he's linking up with his teammates, but there's just nothing. In fact, he does most of his work here like in a defensive position. Then you combine that with his pass map from the game, and that's like an astonishingly low number of passes. Like, they're not even concentrated in any area. He's just kind of floating about, not really impacting the play in the final third. But this isn't unusual for Trossard at all. Like, I think across the course of this season, he's averaged about 27, 28 touches per 90 minutes. He averages about like 13 or so passes per 90 minutes. He's not someone who's heavily involved in all aspects of the game. Like, whether Arsenal are attacking or defending, his contribution is small. Now, if you are watching, Anne, then please do stick with us here, because we're going to get into the quite tedious, boring, nerdy numbers side of this, right? These are his stats purely in the Premier League this season in terms of his passing, in terms of his chance creation, and in terms of his possession, and they are ass. Ass, A-S-S, arse, bum, they are rubbish. You would never ever look at those and think the man behind them was somehow helping to lead a valiant title charge. You'd think he was crap. I know you're right, context is key here, so I'll show you comparatively to Gabriel Martinelli's exact same numbers from the exact same period of time, the man whose form has dropped off and he has thus replaced they're much better. And these are the things you tend to judge a wide attacker on. Like, just in everything you want here, Martinelli looks like a vastly superior player. Like, his passing numbers tell you that he gets on the ball loads more, and the key passes in particular, which is any pass that creates a chance for your teammates, he's better at those, so he's more damaging to the opposition. And he's got all types of chance creation as well. Like, these numbers aren't incredible, but they still leave Trossard in the dust, whether it's like a dead ball or a through ball or a take on or a shot. Like, he's got more weapons in his arsenal, no pun intended, for making things happen. And this is the main event of this particularly weird party. Like, just look at how much better he is in possession. Like, he gets on the ball in all the right areas so much more than Trossard. He carries the ball, he runs at people, he gets it into the penalty box. Like, he makes progressive passes, he moves it forward. It is simply almost unbelievable that this player is not always first choice. So why then? Why does Arteta pick him every single week now? Why do me and Anne Hathaway both love him? Why does he keep popping up in the right place at the right time and scoring these vital goals? Well, I haven't shown you all the stats. In front of goal, or shooting as it is known, Gabriel Martinelli is fine. He is capable. He is able. When he's on form, he can do some real damage. These are not numbers to be embarrassed about. However, Leandro Trossard, your pal and mine, is not just better in this regard than Gabriel Martinelli. He is honestly at an elite level for finishing as a centre forward, never mind as a wide player. These numbers, quite frankly, are extraordinary. The number of goals, obviously, we've already discussed. He has scored quite a lot, so that's not where your eye should be going. Your eye should be going here. Goals per shot on target. He is in the very top bracket imaginable for turning chances into goals. Nearly 1/4 of all the shots he's had in the Premier League this season have ended up in the back of the net, and if he's in a position where he can get that on target, it goes in more than 50% of the time. But if you would be so kind as to just direct your attention slightly further down to the XG numbers, and I know a lot of people are like, oh god, XG, grow up, but trust me, you're gonna like this bit. This is goals minus XG, right? And it's just basically an incredibly dorky way of like putting a formula to how good in front of goal are you really. Because like if you score loads and loads of goals, but you've got teammates putting it on a silver platter for you all the time, then that is one thing. But if your chances aren't really all that hot and you're still finding the back of the net, that's obviously much better. So if you add up all the XG of the chances Trossard has had in the Premier League this season, right, and then minus that from the number of goals he scored, you get like a number. And if that number is a positive number, then you are overperforming against the chances you're getting. You're a ruthless, lethal finisher. And obviously if it's a negative number, then the perception is you probably should be doing slightly better, which is where we find Martinelli in this particular regard, and Arsenal fans will agree. He's not been that good in front of goal this season, and that comes out in both the eye test and the numbers. But Leandro Trossard, his number is not only just positive, it is about as big a positive number as anyone has in the league this season. Plus 0.24, which doesn't sound very much, but just to put that in a way that will make sense to normal people, right? For every 4 goals he should score, he scores 5. And is that good, Adam? Is just getting 5 goals when you should only score 4, is that good, or has it just got a big green line next to it? And you know what? That is a great question, and I do have a way of making the answer make sense. Okay, so you know Erling Haaland, right? Well, you remember, don't you, how last season he was being hailed as like the greatest centre forward, the greatest natural finisher who's ever lived, yeah? Like, obviously this season, he's more like a character out of Space Jam, and oh no, the aliens have stolen my powers, but last season, couldn't miss. And yeah, it's weird, because in that greatest ever goal-scoring season, Haaland's number for this particular stat was plus 0.25. So almost exactly the same as Trossard is doing this season. Except, oh no, wait. You're right, Trossard doesn't take penalties, does he? So if we deduct the penalties from Haaland's stats last season to give him like a non-penalty goals minus XG, what does that come out as? Oh wow, no way, it's plus 0.20. So just purely in open play, Trossard's actually a better finisher this season than Haaland was last season. And I mean, that's it's pretty good, isn't it? And the thing is, right, crucially, this is not a fluke. Like, if you go back through all of Trossard's stats in this exact regard, like last season at Arsenal, previous to that when he was at Brighton, he's always been overperforming on that particular metric, which means he's just always been a really good finisher. And if you've watched the goals he scored during his time in England, you can see that's because he's one of the most naturally two-footed finishers I think possibly we've ever seen in the league. Like, the breakdown of his goals from his left foot and his right foot is really, really evenly split. I think he's got actually one of the best percentages in that regard over the last couple of seasons. And because he's confident finishing on either foot, it makes it really, really difficult for both goalkeepers and defenders to limit his opportunities. Like, his goal against Manchester United is indicative of his drive, his determination, his reading of space, his willingness to throw himself where he thinks the ball is going to be. Like, all that mental stuff that does help you get these chances. But there's also been two recently where that inability to predict what he's going to do has actually been one of the main reasons he's got the goal. Like, for this one against Chelsea, I actually think it's perfectly possible for the position Alfie Gilchrist is in for him to try and throw himself in front of that ball if he knows for certain that a shot is coming. But because Trossard is on his left foot here, and there's obviously other players in the box he's capable of cutting it back to, he doesn't want to overcommit in this scenario. Like, if that was someone who was purely left-footed, you'd probably just be like, oh, well, they're going to have to smash this here, so I'll try and block it. But because it's Trossard, you can't do that. And likewise, the goalkeeper gets beaten at his near post because he probably suspects in his mind that either he's going to try and cut onto his right foot or he's going to roll it across the box. Like, it's not a sure thing. He's just going to swing a leg at this, so his body isn't sort of prepped to go to his right as much as it might maybe otherwise have been. And also, the Bournemouth goal here, I also think it's perfectly possible for the defender to throw himself in front of this shot if he knows for definite that Trossard is going to shoot. Like, if that's a player who's entirely right-footed, that's his only option in that situation, so you try and make the block. But because it's Trossard, he's perfectly capable of going around him on his left if he overcommits, so he just kind of does neither one nor the other. And that leaves this very small little gap, which Trossard, because, as we've discussed, very good at finishing because of that nice little number he's got, scores. So, just to make sure I'm completely making my point here, right? This is not the contribution from an attacking player you ever really want to see in a big game, never mind a shit or bust Premier League title match. And likewise, these are not the overall statistics across a season from a player you're ever likely to trust in your starting 11 at the crunch end of the season. But the reason why Arsenal are A, happy to accommodate all of this, and B, have repeatedly rejected all the assertions from those know-it-alls in the media that they need to go and buy a proper centre-forward, is because of this man. You can have very little game involvement or chance creation down your left-hand side, and you can have Kai Havertz playing this frankly bananas horizontal false nine position up front, because when push comes to shove, comes to fart, comes to shart, Leandro Trossard is capable of popping up with that goal. But if, and obviously it is an if, they do manage to pull this off, Leandro Trossard's name will not be the first one Arsenal fans think to sing, but I will, and Anne Hathaway will, so there you go. Anyway, I've been threatening this for absolutely ages, but I've finally gone upstairs and got a copy of the Euros edition of the new 442. There's a little bit of blue in this. I'm worried that'll be messing with the screen behind me. But look, Bukayo Saka's on it, so you, an Arsenal fan, you should like it. That's available just absolutely everywhere now. It comes, you're going to love this, not only with a Euros preview special issue magazine, ooh, freebies, but also, look at this. This is good. All right, let's go with this. I've ripped it 3 times already, but look, this is a, look, it's a wall chart. It's a wall chart for the Euros, so you can do all that. You can fill it in, like when you were a kid. Anyway, it is quite thin, so do be careful with it. Anyway, please subscribe to us here at 442. Loads more stuff coming at the end of the Premier League season, the FA Cup, the little weird transfer window we're going to have before everybody declares bankruptcy, then the Euros itself. Loads of fun stuff to come, so don't miss any of that. Please, it does help us out absolutely loads. And of course, if you want to get me on social media, you can at Adam Cleary, Clery, 442 socials in the corner of the video. And just I would encourage you to maintain your commitment to having a nice time. And that might seem like a really out-of-pocket thing to say, but I just think people forget every now and then. So after you've watched this video, go do something nice for yourself. A little cat nap, a cup of tea, just something that'll make you smile. That's my advice. I'm going to do both of those right now. Goodbye.